Hey everyone, so today in our tutorial for XOD, we are going to be covering how to make nodes from other nodes. And what we're going to be using to do that with is an 8-segment display. As you see down here, it's just a set of 8 LEDs. 7 of them creates the number, and then you have an 8th that is the decimal point down in the bottom right. Now, the way that I have this wired up, it is rather easy. Pins 3 and 8 are ground pins. This is a common cathode 8-segment display. Here's an image I found. This will give you a close-up to the left of what it actually looks like. The same thing I've got set in here. You can see the letters, the A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We're going to be using that a lot. The way that I try to remember how they're ordered is it kind of goes in a spiral, a clockwise spiral from the top. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Kind of spirals inward. And then the decimal point is off to the side. Now here is a close-up of the pinout. As you can see as you see on here, 3 and 8 are the middle pins. Now those are connected to ground on the Arduino, but in between I have a 220 ohm resistor on both grounds before it goes to the Arduino. And then beyond that, the ordering on these are kind of weird. Let me see if I can find a better picture here. Okay, here's one. The pinout is A, B, the two top left, and then C is at the bottom, D, E, F, G. Now, you're going to want to keep this in mind because like I said, it is not very intuitive when you first look at it. But the way I have it connected to the Arduino is A is pin 2, B is pin 3, C is pin 4, and so on, all the way up to pin 9 for the decimal point. Let's get rid of these. Okay. So, like I said, the point is to make a new node that will run this. So to start off, we need to create a new project. Now, this new project, think of it as a folder of sorts that is going to contain, or it can contain, all of your new nodes that you decide to create. So I'm going to call it my nodes, if my keyboard works. And as you can see down here, there's no spaces allowed, just dashes. So that's why I put a dash in there. And we're going to create a project and save it. Or I'm going to save the last one. Okay, so we are in My Nodes. Now, once we're in here, normally what you would do before you walk on to this next step is prototype the node that you're going to create here. I've already prototyped it, so I'm going to just create it for you. This is already going to be quite a long video because you'll see. It's just going to be a long video. But once you have the project created, you're then going to create a new patch. This we're going to call 8-segment display. Okay, so now we have a new patch called 8-segment display. The first thing I'm going to bring in is an input number because the number is going to be what's displayed on the LEDs. And this is going to be what is input into the top of the node. We're just going to start off with some LEDs because we know we're going to need those. And we're going to copy this and paste it 8 times because we have 8 LEDs that we need to control. Okay, and now I'm going to go through and label these. This is going to be LED A, and that is at pin 2. LED B at pin 3, LED C at pin 4, LED D at pin 5, LED E at pin 6, LED F at pin 7, LED G at pin 8, and then LED DP for decimal point at pin 9. Okay, so now we have these set up. We know we have to use those, and we can drag them around as needed. But now, before I start getting real far into this, keep in mind that this is going to be a long video because I'm going to build this whole thing for you so you can see how it's done. Yeah, I would suggest if you've got the basic idea and there's nothing wrong with skipping around. Also, I had done quite a bit of prototyping before this point. What I'm going to show you is not the most optimal code. It is just simply the code or the visual script that I could create in here without having to add actual custom nodes that we're going to cover at a later point. I would normally just load in all the ones and zeros in an array and then have it compare the input to what number the array is at and just dump that into a buffer and then send them to the LEDs. This is going to actually compute each segment, what needs to be lit for it. And you'll see what that means. So, to start off with, we need to compare the input number with any numbers that would normally light LED A. Now, I wrote up a cheat sheet here that tells me, LED A is used in 0, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And I can go through and work it there. I also made a little grid to help remind me which LEDs are which. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and bring these in now so I don't have to keep flipping between them. Oh. We're going to put it into a comment. There we go. Okay, so LED A. We're going to bring in an equals, because that's what we're going to use to compare it. And we're going to bring in a constant number to compare it against. Now, normally you could just put the number in here, but visually, so it makes it easier to understand, I'm going to use a constant number. We'll put in 0. We'll leave the value at 0, so it'll compare. So now, if the input number is equal to 0, it will make this true. If it's not equal to 0, this will come out as false. We need to do this a couple more times. Let's see, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so this needs to be 2. This needs to be 3. Oh. This needs to be 5. Come on. This is 6. 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so now we have all of the numbers that are used, or that LEDA is used to create. Now, if any of these are true, we want it to light up A. There is not a way to adjust the number of inputs on a particular node, or at least not yet. But so in the meantime, what that means is we're going to have to cobble together a bunch of OR nodes. So we will do this. So we will get all of these connected to an OR node, and then we will connect them further down until we can have them turn on via a Boolean the LED at the bottom. Now, like I said, I know this is not the most efficient way to do this. It is just simply the best way that I can figure out how to get it done inside of here. Okay. So now, what this is doing, oh, well, we also have to connect this to each of the inputs. So the input number can be directly compared to any of these. Okay. So what this is doing is this is taking the input number, which will be an input on the node once it's used on the outside. So it's going to take the number that's coming in and then compare it against any one of these. If any of these are true, it will trigger one of these ORs and then give us a 1 at the lumen side of the LED, which will turn it on to full brightness. So we need to do this several other times to do the rest of these LEDs. Just to make this quick, I am going to copy and paste this whole thing. We can delete that. Okay. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. There's 2. 3, 4, 7, 8, 9. Look at that. Okay. So to get this one, we just need to connect this to all of the numbers it needs to compare against. And we will keep doing this until we get the LEDs done. The decimal point is different. We're going to treat that one differently. This, we're just going to use a binary input. So we'll come to patch nodes, input, Boolean, and so a direct 1 or 0 in here will turn on that decimal point. That way you could turn it on separately from the number that you're feeding in. So let's copy this next one over. I'm going to try not to make this too terribly spread out. And once we're done here, I'm going to also upload this as a library that you can download from XOD. That way, you don't have to make this yourself if you're following this. I mean, you can make it yourself if you want, but you don't have to. You can just download it. Let's see. C gets an extra one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wait, 0, 1. So all the numbers, but except for 2. Now I know this is going to make some people cringe, but I'm going to do this a little out of order so I don't have to rewrite all those. We know 5 is in there. 0, 1, 3, 4, 5, and we need 6. For any of you that is a little OCD, I'm sure this numbering here is going to bug you, but it is what it is. We need another OR. And we will just connect this down to here, and this down to here, and that's for LEDC. So now we have 3 of these segments made up. I've still got to connect this, but I'm just going to go ahead and continue to finish these out, and then I'm going to go through and connect this to all of them. So we have 4 more here. Just going to copy that whole thing, paste it over. Okay, this one's got less. 0, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8. Zero, 2, 3, 5. 6. 8. Okay. Let's just delete those and remake these. Okay. Almost done. That's LED-D. E is going to be 0268. So this will be 0. And then 2. And 6 and 8. That's going to be LEDE. I'm not quite a large fan of having to move around using the middle mouse button. I think that I don't know. It seems to get set to where you can move even though you're not clicking on it. F045689. Come on. Oh, that's going to bug me. I'm going to have to move that. Oh, what was the numbers? Come on. 045689. 04 5 6 8. We'll just make this 9. Okay, one more. LED G. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9. Get rid of this LED-A at the bottom. Okay. So it's going to be 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 8, 9. So we can get rid of. Oh, get rid of 7. Come on. There we go. Get rid of 7. Copy and paste. Okay, I think we're done. Well, at least with that part. So, let's drag this over. Let go. There we go. And start throwing these down here. So that way this input number is compared to all of these. Now we're not going to have any sort of output on here. I mean, the output is the LEDs. So we're not going to use the output nodes. Oh, that looks like it got disconnected. And like I said before, you do not have to do all this yourself if you don't want to. I will have this up for download, which I will also show you how to upload the libraries and stuff yourself, the ones that you make. That way you can share it with everybody else. And that's why it's important to name your projects, or at least the project and the patch, however you want it named, because make sure it's decent. Because if you do decide to share with everyone, that's the names that everybody's going to see. Almost done. Now let's hope that this works the very first time. I mean, you always hope for that, but we'll see. Okay, I think we are done. So let's save this. And let's use it. So let's go back to main, and you'll see here under my nodes, this is the project that you created, and this is the patch that you created under it. 8 segment display. So let's drag that out. And wow, this is starting to lag behind it. It's got to be my video capture software or something like that messing with it. But you'll see the 2 nodes that we created. I need to reverse these. The order in which they appear left to right in the graph in here makes a difference as to the order they appear on the node. Because I made this decimal point to the left, that's where it's at. So let's just leave it as is, and we will make this the number 6 and upload and see if that works. Oh, I don't want to debug. Okay, so now that you can see after it's uploaded, it is not quite displaying a 6. So I'm gonna have to go back in there and figure out what's going on. Okay, so I had reset my screen recorder and then I wrote a timer script. Oh, the screen recorder reset made this run a lot smoother. As you can see, it's not lagging nearly as bad. So it was my screen recorder causing it to lag. But I made a little timer that will pulse out the numbers, 0 through 9, just using the flip in times, and then once it's done, it resets it and flips it in times. And I got it set to 10, so it starts at 0 and counts up through 9. And as you can see, I didn't change anything in this node here. I'm not sure why it didn't work the first time, but after having this timer here, that seems to be doing the trick. But as you can see, as it's cycling through and displaying all the digits correctly. The only other thing to try is we want to make sure that the decimal point works. So we're just going to set that to true. You can also switch that if you need, through a Boolean operation. But we will deploy this and be sure that it works. Okay, now that that's done uploading, you can see that the decimal point is on while still counting up. So it's working exactly like we want. There are a couple things, though, I want to change about this node that would make it a bit easier to use. First off, if you happen to close out of your node, as I just did, you can get right back into it by double-clicking it, and that'll pull it back up for you. So one thing I want to change is where this is at. I don't like it on the left-hand side because it is located on the right-hand side of the digit. So we're going to move this to the right hand side, and that will change its location on the node. Now we also want to name these. Oh, didn't want to double click that. This is going to be named DP for decimal point, and this is going to be labeled num for number. Okay, so we're going to save. And now, as you can see, when we go back into our main patch here, it has the labels and they're in the proper order. So I'm fairly happy with the way this is operating at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now publish this. Let's go ahead and get rid of this because we no longer need it. And we're going to publish the library. We're not going to change anything quite yet. We could change that later. Okay, so now if you go to XOD.io and you look under nick/mynodes, you should see this 8-segment display for use. Now that you guys know how to make your own nodes, don't be afraid to do it because it will save you a ton of time. I mean, you could just imagine if you had to make out that entire 8-segment display every time you would use one, rather than just saving it as a node. On one of my future videos, I am wanting to make a video about user requests. You know, certain hardware that you guys have been asking about since I started making these videos. So hopefully in the near future, I will be getting that out. And if you do have any particular hardware questions, if I have it around and I can play with it, I will certainly try to include it. But until next time.